Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to part 2 of my tutorial for the forms coding assignment. We're working on the Easy University project. And let's look at let me get it up here. Yeah, let's look at the checklist that we have for this forms coding assignment. There are three parts. Part one was to make the create pages for all five of our model classes: instructor, section, course, semester, and student. Part two, we're going to make the update pages. And then when we get to part three, we're going to make the delete pages. And then when we're done, we're going to have a full CRUD capability application for all of the tables in our database. Okay? So let's look at what we're going to do. Well, the checklist for part two says that first we need to create the URL pattern for this page. Okay. Next, we're going to have to go to models.py, and we're going to have to add a get update URL method to the model for whatever model class we're working on. Step 3 says that we need to go to views.py and create an update view in views.py. Part 4 says we need to create a template called whatever the class is, form update. So we need to create a template. We'll be able to clone that. And part 5 says that we need to go to the detail template file, and we need to add the code with a link to actually get us to the update page. Okay, and we'll do that on the top of the detail page. One of the things I want to mention is if you follow the Pinkham book, you'll see that there are more places where he puts links for, I think, the update and the delete, and maybe even the create. And this is just a matter of design style. For me, I want to make sure that before we decide to update a particular row in a table of the database, that we've properly seen it. So the only place I want to go there from is the detail page, because I want to make sure we've seen all the details and we know we're updating the right one. And we're going to do the same thing for the delete page. Now, the blog design that Pinkham uses is a little more freewheeling than that, and of course, data integrity for blogs is, I think, less of an issue. Blogging is a more freewheeling, kind of expressive sort of medium, and if somebody deletes a post or deletes a tag or changes a post or changes a tag, and they've got the wrong one, well, big deal. Okay. Whereas if we're in a business record keeping application, which is what Easy University is supposed to be, well, we really want to be conservative about the interaction flow. So that's the way this one's going to work. And of course, the last thing that we're going to do in this part 2, where we make the update pages, is we're going to test. So let's get started. Again, the first thing we want to do is to create the URL pattern for this page. So let's hide our helper sheet, and let's find URLs. Okay. And for right now, we're going to want to make sure we're going to close these things down the bottom so we have a little more room. Okay. So what's the URL that we're looking for? Well, we're doing instructor and we're doing update. So we want an instructor update one. Okay. And how are we going to do that? Well, we it turns out that the one that works the best is the one that we use for the detail page. Why is that? Well, because when we do the detail page, we have to provide the key value for the instructor that we want, and it's the same for the instructor update page. So let's go and take the instructor detail page URL pattern, and let's copy it down here underneath create, because we want to keep them in order. And let's do a little cloning. Okay. One is we want to make sure that we add on the update string on the end. Okay. And that's the only change it's going to make in the URL pattern itself, or the regular expression pattern itself. And instead of instructor detail, we're going to get what we called instructor update. Okay. And then the name of this URL pattern, instead of instructor detail URL pattern, is going to be instructor update URL pattern. Okay. And of course, this instructor update hasn't been imported. So let's go up to the list of class names we're importing from views and add instructor update. And of course, that's going to resolve the reference that we had down below, but we still are going to have to go create that. All right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, number 2, go to the model class and implement the get update URL method. So we're going to go do that. Okay. And let's go to the model class. Models. Okay. And which model class that we're working on? We're working on instructor. Okay, so we have a get absolute URL, and then we need a line to put this on. We want to get update URL. And in the interest of moving along, I'm going to just going to bring the code in from my already baked version of this, and I'll explain it. How's that? So, okay, so get update URL for instructor. So we're going to want to return the reverse of, the reversing is what's going to get us the URL. So it's a course info instructor update URL pattern. And then, of course, we have to make sure that we pass it the right key. So the second argument is a Quarks dictionary with one member, and it's the requested instructor ID, and we're going to populate that with the instructor ID from self, which is, of course, the instance of instructor. Okay, so that's going to work like that. And now the next one, I'm going to recommend that you print out your checklist, because I put mine on another monitor and I'm not going to keep swapping back to it. So the next one is we want to add the class-based view for instructor update. So let's go do that. So let's go to views.py and let's go to the right place here, instructors up front. And we have one for instructor detail, instructor create. We're going to need one for instructor update. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find my already baked code and bring it over here, and we'll walk through it, okay? So instructor update is right here. And it's pretty extensive. And I just want to point out that the view in Django is where all the tricky logic goes. Okay. This is, of course, Django's version of the model view controller architectural pattern. And of course, the names are a little different. So the controller in model view controller, that's where the tricky logic is. And that's what the view does in Django. So this is the trickiest code we're going to have to figure out. All right. So let's look at what we have here. We've done a couple of things. One is we need to retrieve the object. Okay. So in instructor, that means that we're going to retrieve the instructor instance. Okay. And so what we've done is we've created a method that's going to allow us to do that for this, because we need to do it both on the get and on the post. Okay. So instead of putting that code in both the get and the post methods, we create a helper method called getObject that we call from both. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about what's the role of the get and the post. Okay, well, when you think about an update page, okay, you can think about two things happening. One, from the point of view of the server, is the server has to be told to render a page with an HTML form in it that's been populated by all the values that are already in the row in the database. Okay. And then the other thing that has to be done is when the user finishes the editing that they're doing and they say, you know, OK or commit or submit, or the button that we're going to have is going to say update instructor. Well, then you have to process that, and you're going to have to apply whatever changes that you have. Well, those are two different interactions with the server. And the way we do them is that we have the get method, which implements the HTTP get method, and then we have the post, which implements the HTTP post. And so the get is what renders the form, the populated HTML page, ready for the user to interact with. And the post is what submits the form ready for the server to process it and either do the update or return some complaints. The way I remember what's the get and what's the post, when you submit an HTML form, one of the things that you can do is within the form there's a parameter for the method. Typically the preferred way to do it is to use the post. Okay, It's considered a best practice. The values on your form don't get exposed in your URL string like they do if you use the get. Okay, so that's the form submission. Okay, why is the other one the get? Well, very simply, when you click on a link in an HTML form, the HTTP request that gets created is always a get. Okay, and how do we get into the situation where we want to render this form for the user to put the updates into? Well, we click on a link. Okay, so we click on a link and say, yeah, we want to edit this. So we go to the get. Whereas when we are submitting the form, we click on a button that says that we want to update the instructor, and it just so happens that in the HTML form we've said that that's going to use post. Okay, so that's how we decide what each of these are. The code for the get, first of all, we're either going to find that row in the database, or we're going to return a 404 page. We're not expecting a 404 page because all of the things that we're going after are coming from lists that we wrote out ourselves. Okay, so if we're going to be on the detail page for this instructor, and if we click and we say we want to edit it, we're expecting to find it. So it's going to be a pretty unusual circumstance where it's not found. Okay. Likewise, when we go to post the updates, this is a thing that we just found and rendered the update page for using the get. So if it's not found when we come back, again, some very unusual circumstances have happened, and getting a 404 is not such a bad thing. Okay, so then in both cases we want to retrieve the row from the table that has the instructor that we want. Okay, and then we populate it in this instructor equals self get object requested instructor ID. Then we set the context. Okay, we have a form class. The instance is in instructor. That's what we retrieved it to. Okay, and then we need to pass the instance in the context. Why? We're going to need that to render the form in the template. Okay, and then we're just going to render it. So we're going to return render requests, self template name, and context. So that's how we render the page that we're going to do put in front of the user so they can work on the update. Okay, and now in post, I see we have another import to do, so I'm just going to do an alt return and do an import. Okay, so that's good. So we do the same. We get the instructor instance the same way by calling this get object helper method. Okay. We bind the form to the instance. So this is how the form becomes bound to a particular instance. Okay. If the bound form is valid, okay, so if the data that we got in passes all the validation cleaning tests, then we're just going to save it, and we're going to redirect to new instructor And what's that going to do? Well, that's going to use the um, URL for the new instructor, and we're going to get back a detail page. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. We're going to go to the instructor detail page. Otherwise, we're going to render an error page. Okay, and what is interesting is the logic that happens here when we render the error page is very close to the logic that happened up here on the get when we rendered the page right in the beginning. Okay, so it's pretty complex, but it's made more simple by the fact that these things are pretty specialized, right? Again, the get just renders a fresh page with the HTML form on it, so the user can do the changes on the instructor. And then the post, either it processes that and saves the changes and it renders to a detail page, or it does the same thing that the get did. It renders this page to go back, except that because the form is bound to this, we're going to get we're going to see what they actually entered. So we're going to see the data that they keyed in. Plus, we're going to see any appropriate error messages. Okay? All right, there you go. So that's a lot. So what's the next thing that we do? We have to create the form update template file. That's number 4. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, let's go to, let's just borrow that. Okay, so I'm just going to borrow that in the interest of time from the already baked solution, and I'll be right back with it. Okay, so I just went over to my already baked solution, and now I'm going to paste in this file instructor form update. Okay, and then let's look at instructor form update. Okay, so this isn't all that different from the detail page, but it's different. Okay, first of all, it doesn't say, well, first of all, it says update instructor. Okay, it has an HTML form on it. Okay. What's important in these form pages is that we have the proper action. Okay, so we could have cloned the create the instructor form, which we use for the create. Okay, now what's different primarily in that? Well, it's going to another URL. I'll have to confess that I had some problems while testing this. I cloned the instructor form into the instructor form update, but I never changed the URL. And instead of updating the instructor that I wanted to update, I was adding duplicates. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. They were kind of semi-duplicates because I had to change something. So if I changed the first name, then I had 2 instructors with the same last name and different first names. Well, why was I adding instead of doing the update? Well, I was calling the URL pattern, for create. Oops. Oh, I figured that out. Okay, the method is equal to post again. We have this CSRF token again. This is to prevent cross-site scripting forgeries. You just put the token in, and Django does the magic. We're rendering the form with this form as P. And again, I mentioned in part one, okay, we're able to use this kind of high form of the Django magic because at this point, the HTML that we're generating is just fine with us. We're not really styling the outputs. We don't want to make sure that we can add class attributes or ID attribute or span tags or anything like that. The fact is that we're just going to take the rendering as it comes. If in fact you want a little more control over the production of the form, the rendering of the form, then you need to back up in the form chapter, which is primarily chapter 7, and look at some of the earlier versions of the code that Pinkham has. But this is going to be just fine. And then we've got this submit button, which is not too different from the create. Okay, but it says update. So if I were to clone this out of the prior version, just the instructor form, I would have had to change this update. I would have had to change the URL. Okay, and I would have to change the name of the button. Okay, and again, don't get caught with the wrong URL because you're going to think that it's accidentally doing the wrong thing, whereas it's doing exactly what you asked it to do. Okay, so that's the form. Okay, and now we just need to go to the instructor detail page. So let's go to instructor detail. And we have to provide the link that's going to get this all kicked off. Okay, so the links that we're looking for are here, okay, and they look like this. So let me go find my previously baked version here, and I am just going to bring this in. Like this. Should look about like this. I need to add a tag on the end of it. So, well, we don't like that. I don't know what I did there, but okay. And we have an sorry about that. So what we want to do is we want to end the UL. So let's end the UL. Okay, so right under the name of the instructor that we render as an H2, we're going to have an unordered list, and we're going to have a link here. The first one that we have is added instructor, so that's what's going to take us to the update page. Okay, and to make sure we go there, the URL that we're going to is the one. It's the get update URL, so that's the right one. Okay. We put this in an unordered list here because we're also going to put the delete right after it. Okay, so we think that's kind of a nice spot for it. Okay, and that's the only change to that page. It's really pretty straightforward, just adding a link. Okay, so now we're up to number 6, test, and what's that going to look like? Well, let's just give it a look. We want to crank up the test server, the development server, and here it is. And we want to say run server. Okay, and let's go to the page. Okay, and we're on the section list page because I've made that the default page. So let's go to instructors. Okay, and you'll see that we have our new link, create new instructor. I'm sorry, we had our new link, create new instructor there before. And I don't see where we got the edit. Interesting. Oh. Oh. My bad. Okay. This is, of course, on the instructor list is where you create a new instructor, where you say you want to update an instructor is on the detail page. So let's go to my page, Kevin Trainer page, and there's the edit instructor link. Sorry, it's a little bit early here today. Good. Let's edit this. And of course, I have only the name, but let's give me a middle initial. Let's say Kevin X. I don't have one, so we're going to use X. Kevin X Trainer, and we're going to update instructor. And there he is, Trainer Kevin X. And then let's go back to the list and Trainer Kevin X. Be really sure you don't have a duplicate here. The way you get a duplicate is by accidentally leaving the wrong URL in the instructor form updates. If we go to instructor form update, well, let's go to instructor form. You'll see that the URL in instructor form is course info instructor create URL pattern, because that's what you use for the create. But in instructor form update, we want to get the update URL. Okay, so you don't want to get those mixed up, or you're going to be creating a lot of duplicates instead of doing the update. Okay, all right. So that's that. At this point, I'm thinking that instead of having me walk through the section, okay, which isn't really substantially different from the instructor, we're going to have you do 4 of these on your own. So we've done the instructor as a group, and I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to say I'd like you to do the section, the course, the semester, and the student. Do those 4 on your own, following the approach that we took on instructor. And then I'll pause it, and then I'll go back and show you the testing that I did for all of them. Okay, so we're going to pause here for you to go do this part 2, make the update page for section, course, semester, and student. See you soon. Okay, so I'm back, and hopefully you're back too. You were supposed to have made the update pages for the rest of the model classes. So that would have been section, course, semester, and student. So I've done the same here, but I have to confess that I just had to copy the code from my previously baked version. So this is happening a little faster for me than it probably is for you. But I just wanted to show you the testing. It's really important that you test these things. In particular, when you're doing a lot of this cloning of one thing to the next, it's very easy to forget to change something. Or to change the wrong file. I had an instance of that when I went to test mine. Okay, so let's crank up the development server, which we do by doing this. And as you can see, I have my navigation links up front. Instructors, sections, courses. So my first one that I haven't tested is sections. To tell you the truth, I did actually test all these. So you're going to find that there are no errors in these. But I found an error or two just from my code copying. So don't expect to go as easily as mine. So we're on sections. And let's go to Infost 691, section 902. And let's edit the section. And let's just change the name. Okay, so let's have that be section 501. Let's just have it be section 501. Okay. And there it is. It changed to section 501. I think it's really important, again, to go up to the sections list and make sure that we've really changed it and we haven't created a duplicate. Okay? If, in fact, you get the URL wrong on that form page, you'll be creating duplicates, I can tell you firsthand. Okay, so let's go look at courses. So I've got IS 590 PM. That's a course I teach down at the Illinois iSchool. And it's called Project Management. But it used to be called, let's go to edit the course. It used to be called Project Management for LIS. Before they began to make sure that these courses had the proper appeal for people who were in the MSLIS and the people who were in the MSIM program that they have there. So we've changed that, and that looks good. Okay. And then let's go up to the list of courses and make sure we don't have a duplicate. All right. And then I'm just going to go change it back because it's not called that anymore. Now it's called Project Management. And we'll update that. And that's fine. Okay. How about semesters? Okay. So let's just go change a fall semester and call it autumn. So 2016 fall I have. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to call it 2016 autumn. Okay. Update it. All right, that looks good. Now I want to go in the list of semesters and make sure that I've really changed it and not just created a duplicate with a different name. And I haven't. So, and then let's go change that back because we don't have autumn semesters, we have falls. Okay. That looks good. And then let's just test the changes to students. Let's change our friend Irving Fenton, who's referred to his friends as a Chip, which is usually a junior. And let's say that we realize that he's actually a third, so he's going to be called Trip now. and we've changed his nickname to Trip. And if we go to students, we can see that we've changed it rather than created a duplicate. So that's all the testing. So we now have all the parts of a full CRUD application except for the delete. And that's coming up next in part 3. So I'll see you there. Bye for now.